Mine is 9.
And I'm going to do this in regards to Martin Luther King. I got a book here. I can't remember if I was in an airport or if it was a library or where I was, but I think it was an airport. And I got a great book on Martin Luther King on leadership. And I was finished the book, and to be quite honest, I really appreciate now Martin Luther King more than ever after reading this, because he probably would have been the best networker around based on his character and his leadership skills. And there's a great little thing here, and it says, this little paragraph, it says, but it wasn't only the people that gave him assistance. He was sustained in the knowledge that the cause was noble. There is nothing to be afraid of if you believe and know that the cause for which you stand is right, said Martin. You're ready to face anything, and you face it with a humble smile on your face because you know that all of eternity stands with you, and the angels stand beside you, and you know that you are right. I love that little paragraph in a big book here, Martin Luther King on leadership. And I really think in a lot of ways that's what we have to believe in ourselves, is that what we know we're doing is right. We take a stand, and we're really not going to let anything detour us or stop us. Whatever the level of adversity is, we're going to move forward, and that's why we're having a day here to remember Martin Luther, because he did that. And we need to take responsibility, here in Isogenics with our business. And I've got a gentleman that taught me principles in network marketing here 28 years ago. I got in the industry in 1983. I was in a dead-end job coming right out of college, and I was looking for opportunity and called an ad in the paper, and it was a company based in Los Angeles, and I'm in Southern California. And I got to hear principles, and there was two gentlemen that started this company. The company was called Herbalife, and it was Mark Hughes and Larry Thompson. And many of you know Jim Rohn. He came in later with the company, but really it was Mark Hughes and Larry Thompson that built this company. And the basic training, the basic philosophies is what changed my life here 28 years ago. And that's where the change started, because before that I had really no clue. And getting involved in that company started to open up my mind, my heart, my eyes to the potential that I had. And it was very difficult, though, in this industry after the Herbalife company to find the right company, and we have here in Isogenics. And I have the good fortune here of having a gentleman here that has been a mentor. He's been a coach. I guess I'd call him an idol when I was a kid. And I want him to share some principles with you. And we are teaming up on an event that's going to be happening April 13th and 14th in Dallas. And this is going to be an incredible event because 30 years ago, Larry Thompson did the Millionaire training tapes. And these were tapes that were done for that company, Herbalife, in 1980. And pretty much everybody in the industry that I know has listened to these tapes, and it's made a huge difference for him. So April 13th and 14th, we're going to have the 30th anniversary of the Millionaire training tapes that Larry put together, and we're going to have a reunion. And the website for this is called the MillionaireTrainingReunion.com, MillionaireTrainingReunion.com. All the info is there, where it's going to be in Dallas, how to register, everything. And I really highly recommend everybody within the organization, and as we get closer to that date, we're going to be promoting it along the way. But this is going to be incredible network marketing training, and I'm going to be on a panel as well, so I'm very honored to be part of a 4-person panel that's going to be at this event. So with that, I've got the mentor, the legend on the line, Larry Thompson. And Larry, it's great to have you on. Thank you.
Jay, my pleasure. I mean, my goodness. I mean, it's such an honor to be here with you. I mean, I've been such a fan of yours since 1983. And one of the reasons here that you were on the immediate short list for being on this panel with us, and it was always there, and you were right there, and you were absolutely going to be one of the people I wanted, because you guys are very fortunate to have an upline like Jay. I don't think I have to tell you that. I think you already know that. But sometimes, familiarity there's an old saying that says familiarity breeds contempt. And that's true. The things that we care about the most, we are so familiar with. If it's marriage, if our kids, if it's our job, if it's our family members. And we kind of have a tendency, it's not fair to say contempt, and it's not fair to take them for granted. That's too strong of language. But we become so familiar, we kind of become numb to it. But and that can happen with a company. That can happen with a product. That can happen with a spouse. That can happen with a friend. It can certainly happen with an upline. And one of the things that you never want to do here is take your upline, Jay Bennett, and get numb to the value that he provides for all of you guys because he cares. And Jay stands for daily method of operation. He stands for consistency. And it was a pleasure 28 years ago watching him come in, watching his growth. It's just been a pleasure. And when he finally, after Herbalife, we had our struggles in the 80s, and then we rebuilt in the 90s, and Jay went on to do other things. And it was hard for me and Jay and some of the other people that I work with because they were looking for that home. And when Jay finally found it with Kathy and Jim here, with you guys here in Isogenics, it just put a smile on my face forever and ever. And it's just been absolutely amazing to watch his contribution and to watch what Isogenics has become. I was on some very early phone calls with Isogenics going back 5 years ago, and I never will forget afterwards and calling Jay back and say, I got to tell you something, man. I said, you know what I felt like and what I sensed, I said, was that early feeling in Herbalife where everybody was locked in one unit, one step going forward. And there's very few companies that have ever come close to that. And you guys certainly have it here in your company. It's something, again, to be very, very proud of. But let me just take a couple of minutes here. I will talk about this event we're having in Dallas, but I want to talk about why we're doing it. This is a very special event that we're doing. It's fascinating because Dan McCormick, a good friend of mine and a good friend of Jay's, we were all working together here in Herbalife, and Dan McCormick, he was probably, Dan in Herbalife was probably a C-team player, maybe a B-team player at best. Great guy, very young kid at that time. He got started when he was only 20 years of age. And he stuck in and he liked Herbalife, and he was a very, very good student. But he really never got to apply himself and his leadership until he went to a company called BodyWise. And he went to BodyWise and was the number one distributor there and was there for a number of years as the number one distributor. And then he went about 6 or 7 years ago and started with New Skin of America. And that's when New Skin was doing great internationally, but wasn't necessarily doing so great here in America. And Dan applied those principles that I learned from my mentor, that Jay learned, that Dan learned, and he's now making, $1 million plus a year over at New Skin doing what he's doing. And Dan was in town in Dallas. That's where I'm from. And he said, listen, why don't we get together? So Taylor and the girls and I went over to see him, and we just had some coffee and was sitting around talking, and he was talking about the Millionaire Training Tapes and how they had affected so many people's lives. And, he went on and on about it. And he said, that training was only done once. Now, I've done bits and pieces of it over the years, but that training like it was only done once. And he said, man, it's affected so many people's lives. It would be wonderful to get everybody together and do something like that again. And that was the genesis of this whole thing about September, October last year. And we started talking about it, and I said, well, it would be great if we could get a bunch of people to do it. We all started talking, so Dan committed to it. We got a hold of Jay. Jay committed to it. I got a hold of my good friend John Solander, who's also got started in 1983 with Herbalife, straight out of college, just like Jay, and his first job he's ever had in his life. He's gone on to become a magnificent corporate leader and field leader in number one distributor company called Munitech. And then I talked to my sister Tish, who was the first distributor in the state of Texas for Herbalife, and she was a lady truck driver, and she still is a lady truck driver at heart. You know what I mean? She's different. She doesn't have that job anymore, but she went out here and started building a retail and wholesale business, Chairman's Club member, and has like 76 President's Team members underneath her. All of these guys are $1 million a year earners. And we got to talking and said, wouldn't it be something to put together some kind of, and we first started calling it a training program. And then we said, you know what, it's really not training, it's sharing, because we're not going to put any PowerPoints up there. We're not going to do anything. What if we were just to have a reunion and have everybody that wanted to, that had experienced that directly or indirectly or hadn't experienced it all? Wouldn't it be something if we had a 30-year reunion and invited anybody that wanted to come to this, especially those who were affected the most by this, and say, come on out like an old high school reunion, come on out, and we're going to take 2 days, and we're not going to train people, we're going to share with them. And we're not there to talk about how big our mansions are. We're not there to talk about how fast our cars are. We don't care to share how many bedrooms are on our yachts, okay? We're not interested in that. What we're interested in is talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. How we have taken the common denominator. We don't have common denominators in companies. None of us are associated with each other's company. None of us have any downlines with anybody. There's nothing to buy at this event. There's nothing to sell at this event. There's nothing to join at this event. There's something to experience at this. And when you could have million-dollar-a-year earners of the nature of the integrity and the scope of your leader, Jay Bennett, that's what we're looking at. That's who these people are. These are top-drawer people. And they're there for one reason, to share with each other, to have fellowship with each other, share the speed bumps that they've ran into in their life and their businesses, share the walls that they've ran into, and I'm telling you, we've all ran into them, the disappointments, all of those midnight hours when we were going to, the many, many times that we were all going to give up at different times with what we were doing. We're going to share all of that, and we're going to share how we got through that, and there are some basic fundamental things that carried each and every one of us through to the success that we've experienced. And those basic fundamental things have happened to literally thousands of people, and we're going to be sharing those things as a group with nothing at all except to share it because we want to share it, give back, and be able to maybe capture this and affect people's lives the ways that ours affected. And so you guys can go and check it out. If you could make it. If not, listen, no problem. That's not what this was about, but we just finalized everything today and got it up there, and Jay and I were talking. He said, I got a call. It's all right. Why don't you come on and say hello? I said, absolutely. And, I don't know how you guys see Jay, okay? You probably see him as someone that what he is an outstanding leader, as I've stated a couple times on his phone. But you see Jay as he is today. You didn't see what Jay was and how he got to where he is today. And you hear somewhat of my story, and you might think, oh, my goodness, who's this guy? You know what I mean? I didn't start out this way. I'm not the guy that you would have pointed the finger at and said, listen, that's the guy that's going to succeed here. I wasn't that guy. I go back to the early network marketing world, okay? I mean, I go back a long time, okay? And I was very fortunate to be able to be trained by some of the original founders of network marketing. And when we get to Dallas, I'm going to take you guys through the 4 generations of network marketing and how it evolved from first generation of establishing core values, 1960 to 1980. And then what happened to second generation from 1980 to 1990, where we built on those core values. And what happened in generation 3 from 1990 to the year 2000, where the generation of speculation, And then what happened in generation number 4 that we're in right now, from 2000 to current, the generation of dissipation is what's happening now. I'm going to take you through that history that very few people experience, very few people know about, but hardly anybody's experienced. We're going to take you through that. And, boy, it's priceless. It's priceless when you get to see this thing. And I was there in the beginning stages. And I was there when I was the most unlikely candidate in the world to be able to succeed at this. Back then, almost everybody in network marketing was in their 40s. They didn't call it network marketing. They didn't call it multi-level. They called us pyramiders. That's what they were, pyramiders. That's what they referred to us as. And there was a lot of legitimacy to calling us that because of the way companies operated back then. And there's very few people in their 30s. And here I am, a 20-plus-year-old, long-haired hippie construction worker. Now, a long-haired hippie construction worker today is not an unusual thing. Back then, they'd never seen too many hippies like me. Okay, and I came to that meeting. It was all a hotel meeting, and I came to that meeting. It was at the San Jose Hyatt Hotel right there on 1st Street and 101 in San Jose. I bet it's still a hotel there. I know there is. It is probably still a Hyatt. It was right there on that intersection. And and I got a call from a good friend of mine by the name of Mike Fuller. Now, Mike Fuller was also a construction worker. And Mike was different than the rest of us because Mike had owned his own home, and he had a couple of rental units, and Mike always had money for the lunch truck on Thursday, and we didn't, and we were always borrowing money for lunch on Thursday from him. And so when he invited me to this business meeting, I think that had a lot to do with it because I really looked up to him. But I got to tell you, I wasn't thinking about changing. I didn't think that anybody like me could do anything. I flunked out of high school and quit school at 16 because I was too shy to give the oral book report that was completed. I couldn't even walk across the stage and give it, and after 2 years in a row, I wasn't going to graduate. I was the kind of guy that could tell you the color of your shoes, but not the color of your eyes. I was very bashful, very shy. I didn't have any people skills at all. And the biggest amount of money that I could even dream of back then was $25,000 a year. I mean, man, how could anybody spend that kind of money? That was the biggest I could ever think about. And I went to that meeting that night, and I'll tell this whole story when we get into Dallas. But I went to that meeting that night, not that I was thinking I wanted something to change, because Mike was talking about, he became a distributor with his company, and they needed some more help, and he thought maybe I'd be interested. And the only reason he called me, I found out later, was because the guy he was supposed to bring that night canceled out, and he couldn't get anybody else to call, and he said, well, I'll call Larry. And that's what happened. And I went to that meeting that night because of Mike, but I also went down to that meeting because I'd never been to a business meeting in my life. I didn't know what people did at a business meeting, and I'd never been in a hotel in my life. And so I thought, man, this is going to be something. And I'm not going to get into all the details here, but I went to that meeting that night, and I met a gentleman by the name of Robert Depew, which is one of the original founders of our industry. And Robert shared those same principles and concepts that changed Jay's life, the same ones that changed mine. And Robert saw something in me that I never saw in myself. He saw that I had some desire, and he saw that I was willing to work, and he saw that I was teachable. And he told me, he got me believing that if I had burning desire and willingness to work and I was teachable, he got me believing that somebody like me could make something out of their lives. And I never believed that it was going to turn out for me the way that it turned out. I couldn't possibly. But I thought maybe if I hung around these guys long enough, I might get enough courage to get my contractor's license and go into business for myself. And I worked all the way through generation number 1, all the way up to generation number 2 when we started Herbalife. And there are some fundamental things that I don't care what your background is, and I don't care what your education is, I don't care what your finances is, and I don't care what the economy's like, okay? I don't care about those things. Those are neutral. When I say I don't care about them, they don't matter. Those are neutral, okay? What matters is desire. What matters is willingness to work. What matters is teachability. And then there's about a half a dozen things, only about a half a dozen things, that you really got to learn to get proficient at. Now, some of you are going to get really good at it. Some of you are going to get good at it. Some of you are going to get average at it. And some of you are going to get so-so at it. Doesn't change the outcome. Doesn't. Okay? What changes the outcome is daily method of operation, learning those 5 or 6 things that you need to learn. They're simple to learn. They're simple to do. But as Jim Rohn has always taught us, what is easy to do is easy not to do. And that's what happens. And how do you keep yourself motivated? How do you do that? Because that's what it really boils down to. And part of these fundamentals that we're going to be sharing with you, that was shared with Jay, which was shared with me, okay, which was shared with everybody on that panel. When you think about $1 million a year earners sitting in that room for 2 days, and I'm talking Tish Roshing, the lady truck driver. I'm talking about Dan McCormick, who never went to college. Okay, if he went to college, he didn't last but 6 months. Okay, I'm talking about me, who never got out of high school. Okay, what is it? What is those things? What are those things that we learned that was able to perpetuate the success that we've had, no matter what set of circumstances that we've been confronted with? And we've all had it. We've had it in our businesses. We've had it with the companies that we've been with. We've had it with our marriages. We've had it with our children. We've had it with our friends. We've had it with our family members. Everybody has that stuff going on in their lives. Nobody's immune to that. But how did we work through that? How did we get there? How are we able to make that happen no matter what takes place? Because Bobby, my mentor, taught me. He said, if you master these things, and master these things isn't getting the best at it. I got to go back. Some of you are going to get very, very good at it. Some of you are going to get good at it. Some of you are going to get average at it, and some of you are going to be so-so at it. It doesn't matter. But if you understand, master them is completely understanding them, which are so simple to do. All successful things are simple. And he said, we'll be able to put you in an airplane, talking to a group of people. And he said, we'll be able to put you in an airplane. And we'll be able to put a parachute on your back with a couple of brochures in it. And we'll be able, as we go out across this country, to be able to push you out at different points. And wherever you land, with those basic fundamental skills, as long as you got the desire, the will, and teachability, he said, in 90 days, you can have a functioning, thriving organization, all on your own. And let me tell you something. I bought that story. Jay Bennett has bought that story. Okay? Dan McCormick bought that story. Tish Roisin bought that story. John Solander bought that story. Okay? We bought that story. And we're going to be there sharing those things with you. And not only us, there's going to be millionaires from all over the United States converging on Dallas, Texas, that have done the same things that we have, to come there to celebrate with us and with you that can make it. And you're going to be able to get a wealth of information. And I'm going to tell you what I believe you can walk away with. That if you can believe that if we can do it, you can do it. And I'm here to tell you that if we have done it, and we have, I'm here to tell you that you can do it. And you can do it at your own rate, your own pace, your own personality, your own set of circumstances. You can make it happen. We're going to talk to you about how to put in 10 hours worth of work in a day for 8 hours worth of pay. We're going to talk about how to employ yourself. We're going to talk about consistency. We're going to talk to you about self-responsibility. Okay? We're not going to teach recruiting techniques. That's ridiculous. Okay? Everybody recruits differently for their different companies and different products and different compensation models. We're not going to talk about how to follow up, and we're not going to talk about those kind of things. Now, come on, you can get those. Those are easy. You can get those anywhere. That's simple. Okay? We're going to talk about self-responsibility. Okay? Isn't that the most important thing that we got to have in our lives? Any of you got kids? Man, I got 3 stepdaughters now from 13 to 18, and I got to tell you something. Self-responsibility is a big issue in this generation coming up. Self-responsibility, okay? And that's something that we take for granted. And we don't accept self-responsibility the way we used to when I grew up or even when Jay was growing up, okay? It's different today. Self-responsibility. We're going to talk about self-determination, okay? How it's up to us. It's not up to somebody else. It's up to us to be self-responsible and self-determined, okay? Self-motivating. We look to somebody else for most motivation. You're going to get motivated at this event. Well, let me tell you something. That kind of motivation at something like this doesn't last long. It lasts about as long as a hot bath, you know. But before you get on the airplane to go back home, it's over, man. When you get standing in the line and get frustrated because they bumped you off the seat, or you got a center aisle, a seat instead of an aisle, you're all bummed out. And that motivation goes away. But I'm talking about self-motivation. Self-responsibility, self-determination, self-motivation, so that you can be self-functioning under any kind of circumstances as long as you've got the desire, willingness, and teachability. We're going to share those things with you. And let me tell you something else we're going to do, okay? This is Friday the 13th and Saturday the 14th. On Friday night, we're going to have a party, man. And Jay will tell you, when we have parties, when we used to get together, we had parties. And we're going to have a great party. It's going to be fun. It's going to be celebration. It's going to be fellowship. It's going to be an absolute blast at this event. And it's going to be loaded with questions and answers, okay? Again, there's no PowerPoint presentations here. There's nobody going to be working off of notes. We don't have to have PowerPoint. We don't have to have notes because it's not that kind of thing. We're going to tell our stories, and you guys can ask questions about everybody's story. We're going to have a panel up there at different times where you're going to be able to ask any question you want of any member on that panel, and they can answer it. Any of the other moderators, the speakers on the panel, can speak up and answer it a different way. We can spend sometimes an hour on one question at dissecting it and looking at it from different angles. There's no wrong answers here. There's no better answers. There's understanding. This is a unique experience that has never happened in direct sales history. Jay is part of this. Jay says, I want everybody on my team to have the opportunity to be there. Do you know how much confidence he has in that? To put you in front of other people, that you're his family, you're his kids, you know how protective he is of you? That's what he believes in. And it goes for every person on that panel. We're all in this thing to be able to get back and share. So I'm excited about it, Jay. And I'm open for any kind of, if you want to go into a question and answer thing here, we can take some questions and answers. If you want me to talk about something else, and you can, and I don't know if they got that website or not. I don't remember, what was it, millionairetrainingreunion.com?
Yeah, millionairetrainingreunion.com, and like Larry said, it just came up today. So there's a few things that maybe are not complete on the website, but for the most part, everything's there in terms of the location, the hotel, and how to register. And there's a 2-for-1, and it's millionairetrainingreunion.com. Millionairetrainingreunion.com.
By the way, this is going to be at the Westin Stonebriar Westin Resort, man. What a beautiful hotel this is. And they got you guys special rates for $129 a night. These are usually like $300 a night rooms at this resort. It's cool, way cool. Anyway, we'll take this in any direction you want to go.
Yeah, Larry, what I want to say to everybody on the line, I really love what Larry just shared because it just brings back memories, and I'm under the ether of the 28 years ago and hearing all this. You know, desire, willingness to work, teachability. I mean, that should be a mantra for everybody in our organization. And I think really, you know, with a great quality company like Isagenix and the great products that we have, we can get so product-driven that we lose sight of the fact that this is a network marketing business model. This is a network marketing business model. And for all of us on this line, you want to be learning this thing called network marketing. That's why getting to Dallas and hearing this really from third-party people that have been in the industry, you know, their entire careers, it's going to make a huge difference for you when you learn this thing called network marketing. And you meet other people that are in network marketing, and you learn these basics like Larry's talking about. Larry, I could bring it on with questions and answers, but I think we have a short period of time here to just close it out. What I want to do is ask you one serious question, though, because when you mentioned the issue of adversity and you mentioned the issue of, you know, we all have challenges in different areas of our life, but especially specifically business. You know, one of the things that I think was the most remarkable thing about you and Mark Hughes was that you took this company called Herbalife that nobody knew. You were working out of the back of your cars selling product, and it was just I mean, in terms of just a startup company, you took this company to $1 billion in sales in like 5 years. $1 billion in sales, and all of us know that that's pretty darn good. And then you got hit by the FDA and the government and the media, and it was kind of like a conspiracy, it seemed like, but everybody was after Herbalife, and they wanted to bring it down. And Herbalife did go down. People bought into some of the things that were being said, and people ran different directions, and the company really collapsed to a level of, I mean, like a minuscule sales, and, you know, the doors could have been closed. And yet, being squashed down to nothing, you brought it back up to $1 billion again. I don't think anybody realizes that story about Herbalife if you don't know 1985, what happened there. And you were right in the middle of that, Larry, and like you said, it was like a missile that had come down on the company. The question I have, and we can, you know, this may give some people some teaching points, what did you do, and you can say it from any way you want to say it, to get back up to $1 billion when you had been crushed down to nothing?
Well, it was a struggle. It was a real struggle, and it did happen overnight. You were there, Jay, and I called it at that time an MX missile hit us head on, and they took us from $1 billion a year and about 85% of that was in the U.S., and they took our sales down overnight. Within 12 months, our sales dropped to over $3 million a month in the United States. And we had our overhead cocked up. We just got that new building out there by the LAX airport, and we had 7 floors worth of new computers that hadn't even been unboxed yet, and telephone systems and desk systems, and we never did get them unboxed because we didn't need them, and we had to cut back on cash flow. And it was a real tough situation. It was a real tough situation. And the distributors was calling on Mark and I, let's just go start another company and we'll follow you guys anywhere, and you guys would have. Okay? But we believed in the name Herbalife. We believed in our product line. We believed in what we were doing, and we believed that we could get it back. And I never believed it was going to take us 5 years to get back. I didn't believe that part. Okay? I thought it was going to come back in a couple of years. And over the next couple of years, okay, everything I tried to do, nothing seemed to make a difference. And we were losing people right and left. And the reason we were losing people right and left, because they had their overheads cocked up to the level, and they weren't making the money anymore because the sales volume wasn't there. And then there was all of these offshoot companies were just raping us like crazy, and people had to go protect their families. They didn't leave Herbalife because they wanted to. They left Herbalife because they had to. And that was really was able to give a lot of momentum to the growth of the industry because of what happened to Herbalife, opened up a lot of doors for a lot of other companies, a lot of other distributors. But I will tell you what really pulled it out. Okay, I always believed in the products and always believed. And by the way, at the end of this attack, we didn't change anything. We changed 26 words on our labels. We had a product, for example, that said that it removed the cellulite. We had to change, we didn't know back when what we know now. And we had to put the word remove the appearance of cellulite. Okay? It was those kind of things. We didn't change the compensation plan, didn't lose any products, we didn't do anything. It was all a political thing that hit us with all the competition, and we were exposed, and we were young, and we were a little naive, and we were a little cocky and a little arrogant, and boy, it brought us to our knees. Mark and I believed. We put everything we had back into that company, and it was millions of dollars. We both sold our houses, okay? We both hunkered down, and we just started rebuilding, trying to rebuild and rebuild and rebuild. Nothing seemed to work. And all of a sudden here, after 4 years, okay, I said, and nobody believed that this thing was going to come back in America. International was starting to come up. We now had gotten our sales up a total of $10 million a month versus $1 billion a year, to $100 million a year. But our overhead was still cocked up, and so we were still trying to survive the thing. And I'll tell you what happened, Jake. I decided that I believed I was dependent upon my distributors to go put everything that I was saying, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this, let's do that. And everything I was trying, nothing was working. And I was losing self-confidence, I'll be honest with you. And then one day, I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to find out what's really going on. And I decided, and I had a long talk with Mark, and I said, I need a 90-day reprieve here. And I said, I'm not going anywhere, but I'm going to go put on a distributor hat. And I'm going to go out here and not tell anybody what I'm doing. I said, I'm going to get another distributor kit, and I'm going to start off from scratch, and I'm going to see what can happen. And I got out there, and I took 2 distributors with me at that point, okay? One of them was a waitress, and the other one was Blake Morgan, who was a lawn cutter. He did landscaping work, and Jeffrey Powers, who had some business experience. And we went off, and we started working from scratch. And I'm going to tell you, something had happened. I found out that these fundamentals that I described to you guys on this phone, that I had taught all my life, okay, that we built Herbalife on, I found out that those things worked. And I found out that people would join the business as long as it was applied. And I found out that we could get some growth to happen. And that is what took place. And in 90 days' time, okay, I had built up another significant organization of enough new blood to come into the company with those fundamentals. And then I got a group of people that were hanging around, existing Herbalifers, and said, let's go do it together. Long story short, okay, in 10 months' time, we took the U.S. sales from $3 million a month to $20 million a month. And we took from going to recruiting about 600 people a month to 10,000 people a month. And there was no difference in the product line. There was no difference in the compensation plan. There was no difference in any kind of monies. There was a difference in application of fundamentals. And that's what took place. And that's the emphasis that built Herbalife the last year to $3.2 billion. And that's what it was. And it was a tough struggle, Jay. And I made a decision, and I've talked to Taylor, my wife, about I'm going to go into two aspects in Dallas that I've never gone into. One of them is what I call the El Paso story. And that's where I learned this stuff. In a 90-day period of time, and I had 52 people in a row over 90 days that I brought to meetings and got no's, okay, in the very early stages of my career. And I remember going to sleep at night with tears on my pillow. And I remember that midnight hour of getting there, and it being 11:58, 11:59, and I'm getting some relief because I got through this day. And then midnight strikes, and I said, I made it. And then 12:01 hits, and I realized another day started. I'm going to share with you guys something that I've only shared one time with a group over in Europe, okay, about 6 months ago. It's never been shared like this in America, ever. And I'm going to share that. That's where I was taught this stuff, where I metabolized it, where I got it. And I'm going to take you through that El Paso story. And I'm going to take you through that 5-year story of Herbalife. And by taking you guys through this, these are things that the guys on the panel, and Tish, my sister, the lady truck driver, this is stuff that they've gone through. They went through similar things. And I know everybody in that room, if they earned $1 million or earned $1 million in a year or $1 million period, if they've only earned $50,000 or $5,000, I am telling you that this is life-changing stuff that will be with you forever and ever. And again, we're not going to talk about how big our houses are or how fast our cars are. We're there to share with you guys the things that have affected our lives and be so ever thankful that we're here. There's so many alternatives that happen in our life, but because of our desire, our willingness to teachability, these fundamentals, here we sit. Here we sit. And I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Yep. Larry, that was awesome. I had goosebumps because I can relate 100%. And I think everybody needs to look at their own business, and everyone at the level that you are right now, we all deal with levels of adversity. But what Larry's talking about is the incorporated, proven plan of action, fundamentals, things that he could rely on that could get him through that. And I know I've gone through that the same way, where I've taken hits, I've lost people, I've had adversity, but I went back to basics and just started being consistent with those basics and getting back to fundamentals, and my business started taking off again. So, Larry, again, thank you so much for being on. Everybody, that's April 13th through 14th, Dallas, Texas. It just takes a little flight. Get in there. You got all the information at millionairetrainingreunion.com. I also have a quick little announcement. I'm going to be in Atlanta for an Isogenics event with Jim and Kathy Coover, February 10th and 11th in Atlanta. And I want everybody to know that's in the back office. We're going to do a little call. Anybody who wants to get really focused on that event in the Southeast and you want to know all the details, we're going to have a call 7 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern on Thursday night, this Thursday, the 19th. And then last, I've got John Esplanade, who has helped me with a system, and this is a commercial here for a system that I use all the time. It's called Work Smart, Be Smart. And because we don't have time tonight on the call, we're going to roll into a call this Wednesday, and it's going to be at 7 p.m. Pacific. It's going to be 7 p.m. Pacific. John, are you on the line? And, John, if you are, hit star 2, and I'll bring you on. And just give everybody a quick little thing, and we'll be off the line here. So hit star 2, and there we go. So, John?
Hear me?
Yeah, please tell us what we've got. Was it Wednesday at 7 or 6?
Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Okay, so Wednesday at 6 p.m. Everybody. Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Go ahead,
so basically, everyone, and just to let you know, I'm an Isogenics associate, just like you. You know, and with Jay's help and guidance and leadership, I've created a team, and I'm as a STAR consultant now. And basically, the system, and in Jay's words, he mentioned to me one night over the phone. He said it's a plug-and-play system, and what it does, it's a system cultivates and creates and generates and strengthens relationships with your leads, with people who are customers, who are people who are associates on your team, and basically everybody and anybody in your life. It will generate and create relationships with and strengthen relationships in regards to isogenics and what have you. So whether it's somebody you're talking to who's just using the product, or it's somebody you're looking to bring onto your team, or somebody who's on your team, it communicates them automatically, and it also, more importantly, assigns you an action plan so that you know when to follow up at the appropriate time with that person. So no one ever slips through the cracks. I know it's and we designed the system, thankfully, with Jay's input, because really, as we started working together, he said, this would be a great system for me to use in my own business. So we've really taken Jay's guidance to create the system. It's all online. It's not software you load on your laptop or your desktop. It's all internet-based, and again, along with email reminders and action plans, it stays in touch with every single person in your database so that you leave no stone unturned. And we'll talk about that more, and actually through the webinar with Jay's help this Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll show you everything and anything into the system that Jay uses on an everyday basis.
Thank you, John. That was beautiful. Everybody, and I apologize, I forgot the time there, but it's Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern. That makes it easier for the people on the East Coast. Wednesday, 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern. You can go to my website to get on the webinar, leanandclean4life.com, leanandclean4life.com. On the top right, you can enter the webinar room, and you just put your first and last name in, and whammo, you're in the webinar. We'll get an email on that. But beyond that, Larry Thompson, thank you so much for being on this call. I am so looking forward to April 13th and 14th. You got me all fired up. I can't wait to get there. And think about it, folks. Look at your schedules and block it out. You want to learn these principles. So with that, John, thanks for being on the line as well. Let's open up the line here and just say goodbye. And have a great week, everybody.